Can't get it. Hello everyone, thank you all so much for joining in. This is the Trinidad channel and I'm super excited for this video because I'm going to be talking to you all about how to grow some gigantic okra that I can't even reach. Stay tuned. Now I like growing okra because it's one of those crops that will grow in almost any kind of soil in Trinidad. We should always try to grow to your strength when you're choosing crops. So there's so many crops in the world, but there are certain types that are just going to do better in your country based on your temperature, your climate, based on your soil type as well. Okra is one of those crops that will grow in pretty much any kind of soil. I've put it in clay, I've put it in compost, I've put it in a mixture of the two, I've put it in very sandy, loamy soil, and I've never had an issue with okra, never had to use any kind of even organic fertilizers. I never really had to fertilize any of these okra trees. I only have 3 okra trees, and that's another reason why I like to grow okra, is that once you set up, you have 3 okra trees in your backyard, you're going to have okra for months. I'm talking about having to pick okra almost every 2 days because it just produces so well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the different steps into how you're actually going to go about planting and growing your okra. Okay, so I have 2 okra seedlings here and I'm going to show you how you would go ahead planting in your okra. So I've dug my hole here. It's just about 2 inches deep, right? Doesn't need to be a deep hole. I'm going to put in my worm castings, right? Remember, you could also use animal manure if you don't have worm castings. It's optional. Very slow release fertilizer, but really good for your okra. Remember, okras, they're not so very picky with the type of soil, so they'll survive pretty much no matter what, right? Put your bulb in. Now with okra, the variety is very, very important. So the very big variety that I've shown you, which is what I like to grow, this is called the Deerhorn variety, right? And they get really, really big, pretty much ginormous okra. You also have shorter okra, you have white okra, you have red okra. It's pretty much up to your preference. The bigger ones mightn't be to your taste. I happen to really like it, so that's the ones I like to grow, and it's also really fun to grow something really, really huge. But the variety itself is what will determine how big your okras end up getting. Now, in terms of the spacing of your okras tend to spread out really, really wide. So you're looking at a spacing between 2 to 3 feet between okra plants. So let's look at where I put this second hole here. So you can see the relationship between this is where my first seedling has gone, and this is where the second seedling is going to go, right? If you want, you could go even further, because sometimes these do spread out really far. You don't want them to be crowded, because then they will compete pretty much with sunlight and then for nutrients. Probably don't have to be too worried about it, but it's just a precaution. If you have the space to go as wide as you can, between 2 to 3 feet between your okra plants. And then as always, you'll water in your seedlings. And that's how easy it is to plant in your okra. In terms of watering your okra, I just leave the okra up to nature and I let nature handle my okra, because especially if in Trinidad, we don't really have drought conditions very often. I mean, if there is, if it's the time of the year, normally like I think it's around like September, October, where you have piti karam and you may not have rain for maybe like a month or something like that, then maybe I'll water the okra once a week, all right? A nice deep watering. But other than that, I let the okra get water from the rain, full stop, because it's not something that wants you to be watering every single day. That'll kill your okra. All right, so just leave it out. Of course, look at the weather. If you really think that the leaves are drooping and that you need to water by hand, then go ahead and do that. If not, just let nature take care of your okra, because it really is one of those plant it and almost forget it kind of crops. Not entirely plant and forget. It's not like sweet potatoes that I really believe it's plant and forget, but you really don't need to be babying your okra too very much. Another thing is you're going to be planting your okra somewhere where it gets a minimum of 6, 7, 8 hours of sunlight, direct sunlight every day. Do not put your okra somewhere where it is shaded. It's not going to do any favors to the plant. The plant has huge leaves. Now these I don't have a good example of what the okra leaves would look like. This is sort of a baby leaf, right? But when it's adult, because these trees are on the way out, when it's an adult, this leaf gets huge, all right? And it wants to capture as much sunlight as possible. So that's why you're going to want to make sure and put enough and put it somewhere where it can get enough sunlight so that it can have that photosynthesis to produce that nice, good okra crop for you. As far as fertilizing is concerned, as I said, you really don't have to worry much about your okra at all. The most that I'll do is when I'm planting my okra, as I showed you all, I'll put in some compost, some kind of animal manure, such as, of course, my worm castings, or if you have your chicken manure that's nice and matured and composted minimum 3 months, your cow manure, composted minimum 2 months. That's the most for your okra. And just leave it, let it do its thing. It's going to do fine for you. You don't need to rush the system at all with your okra. Now, harvesting. When it comes to harvesting your okra, it's something that the more you harvest, the more you're going to get. Remember, I talked about this a few times, that your plant itself wants to seed the earth. It wants its seeds to get propagated, get picked up by birds and go all over the planet and have the seeds be propagated, have the seeds get eaten by a bird, go somewhere and drop. Now, if you, as the gardener, if you remove the seeds and you remove, by removing, of course, the fruit, the produce, and you do this fairly frequently, then the tree has no other choice but to keep on producing more fruit. Because the tree doesn't just want to produce fruit, it wants the fruit to ripen on the tree itself. And then when that gets nice and mature, then the fruit normally will drop or it gets eaten by a bird. And it gets taken, wherever it has to go. So basically, if you keep on picking, the tree will start to panic and say, wait, I don't have fruit with seeds, so I'm not going to be able to have kids of my own. And the tree wants to have kids, so the tree is going to produce more fruit and keep on producing as much as it will stay alive. These trees, I harvested from these trees for almost 6 months straight. If you've been following me on Instagram, you'll see that I've been posting about okra for a very long time, and I still have okra on these trees here. Now, these okra that I have here, I'm going to be leaving them for seed for the most part, but I did want to bring you all closer and let you all see how you actually harvest okra. The okra is the kind of plant that it's perfect until it's not good to eat. That's just how okras are. So the younger you pick okras, the better. You want to give it some time to, of course, get to the average size that the okra is supposed to be, but don't leave it for very long. Okra is the kind of plant that, of course, the more you pick, the more you're going to get, but also the longer you leave it, the less chance you're going to get something that's actually eatable. All right, so let's look at what happens when you pick an okra on time, or when it's nice and good and young, and what happens when you pick an okra that's been left on the tree too long and not really the best situation. So here we have an okra that is perfect for picking. Have a look and I'll show you how we know that it's perfect for picking. So this is the surefire way to know that your okra is ready. You take the tip, you try to break it off. If it breaks off clean like the way this looks here, but it's a proper snap off, then that okra is perfect. It's nice and young and you should eat this immediately. On the other hand, look at this guy. Looks almost the same, but if you try to snap off the tip, look at what happens. It's bendy, right? It's not snapping off. That tells me that the fibers in this are too old. It stayed on the tree too long. This will be slimy, woody, and not good to eat at all. And that's it. That's all you need to know in terms of growing okra at home in your home garden. 100% organic, completely easy and affordable. Remember that if you know someone who could benefit from this information, share this video with them, because especially with okra, it's one of those things that can help them feed themselves and their family for a very long time. Plant it and almost forget it. Remember, you can follow us on Instagram if you want to see more pictures of things coming out of our garden, and send us pictures, tag us so that we can see what's going on in your garden. We always love to see that. Remember, you can also follow us on TikTok now, so send us, tag us in your videos of your garden, or come see some videos of our garden. Remember, as always, this has been Dylan from the Trinidad Gardener channel, reminding you to get up and get growing. Take care.